We're asking you, the Capricorn placements, to put yourself in a space of the King of Pentacles. You need to feel your own sense of abundance, but from the space of the King. Hello, Capricorn. My name is Kristen Simone Hansen, and welcome to SeaGoat Secrets. Hi Capricorn, I'm Kristen and I'm a healer. In this video, you are going to get a full rundown of September's energy for you and your Capricorn placements. I begin with the astrology and I end with a card reading. If at any point in this video you feel connected to me and would like to become a client of mine, you can do so by joining this link here and also in the bio. I welcome you. And last but not least, you know I am a global citizen and I love connecting with all of you on a worldly and global level. So if you have not already, let me know where you're listening from in the comments and we can all connect and be a strong collective. Now, with all that being said, let's get into this. Hi Capricorn. So I just wanted to do a little bit of a PSA. When it comes to booking and the client circle, I'm changing all of the booking over to my personal website, kristensimone.com, which you can see here. And all of you who are clients of mine know that you have a special portal, which is a derivative off of my website. And my website has been finished, but actually there was a bit of a back end issue. And now we're still on the previous SeaGoat Secrets website in terms of booking. If you go to my website, when you click on the booking, it will take you over to the SeaGoat Secrets website and you can order just the same way that you always have up until this point. So yeah, I would say that things for me were a bit difficult, and those of you guys in the client circle know that throughout August, but things are back on track now and I'm open and receptive to all of you and yeah, happy to get back on board. So now let's begin with September. First, we're going to look at the reflections of the month prior, which is August, and what took place during this time. August was interesting because it was like this interesting space. I keep saying interesting, but it was this space in between, what is going on in your closet and then the brightness of the life that you want to live. So it was this, which tends to happen during Leo season for Capricorns, because again, Leo is your 8th house and all of these things were happening in your 8th house. Lionsgate, all of these things, which was, in this case, so much going on in terms of the numerological 8 activation and what does it mean to create the reality that you want, different things like that. But despite the fact that your eyes, especially by the end of August, begin to open to what it is that you can possibly have for your life and the beautiful things that are around you based on the hard work that you've put in to create the life that you want for yourself, August still came in, and it's still, throughout most of August, you were still dealing with a bit of this shadow, and again, what is going on in terms of 8th house matters like codependency, legal matters, the dark corners of your traumas tied to love and the things that stand in the way of your love life and karma and things like that. The beautiful part is you guys did a lot of work when it comes to transitioning and transforming this energy, even if it felt very difficult. And this is kind of what's leading you into September because of all of these things that have been kind of eerily, almost like you can see the sun, but it's almost like the shadow of what it is that you need to deal with in that closet. And you're no longer able to run from it anymore. There's something about September's energy that brings about a new perspective in terms of you having to face the fact that you can no longer sit in the background or with your eyes closed or binded to the realities of those things that have been sitting in that closet. So, but nonetheless, mid-August was more foggy than anything, and then it ended. And once Mercury decided to station direct, there was more movement. So literally the end of August started to offer you a bit of relief. And it's interesting because as you're in September, it's going to give you this kind of this feeling of almost like you having to realize the ways in which you stand in your own way. We're going to dive deeper into that. I'm just going to kind of wrap up August a little bit more and say that the end of August puts this into perspective for you. So from here, we're going to get into September. As we enter into September, this kind of feeling tied to you standing in your own way becomes a big conversation, and in subtle ways and in larger ways, right? So in the subtle ways, it's almost like you're having to look at maybe where your negative perspective or negative thinking is standing in the way of you being able to experience a much more blissful life than you can see. And I don't want you to take that the wrong way and feel like it's a damnation toward your perspective, because you guys have been through a lot. So of course, how you feel is completely valid, and fears are valid, and anxieties are valid for sure. But September, just like the way the end of August did, there's like these little subtle moments of getting you to see that things aren't as difficult as you think they are, or the monster under your bed is actually much more subtle than you think that they are. Different things like that, and it's kind of karmic reward. It's the divine's way of showing you karmic reward. Now, on the other side, it's also going to highlight the spaces where you've gotten in your own way with more serious matters. And these two things are going to be there, right? So as I always say, there's always yin with yang, right? And one of the biggest things about the yin and yang experience of September is it's really beautiful, right? But then at the same time, you're also dealing with obstacles, right? But the kind of obstacles are the same. I guess they're rooted in the same thing where the pleasure point comes from, which is where you have stood in your own way. So the pleasures are showing you all of these beautiful things like smelling the roses and serendipity and communication and the things that you've been wanting, right? Opening new doors. But then on the other side, the burdens that you're carrying are, again, showing you the ways in which you've stood in your own way that have caused all of the difficulty, karmic cycles repeating, etc. So let's start with week one. Week one, we've got Uranus going retrograde. We've got Pluto entering Capricorn, the big Pluto entering Capricorn. New moon goes into Virgo and Mars enters Cancer all in the same time. Okay? This is a big deal because Mars is now in your opposite energy, Cancer. And this can bring a little bit of an opposition for you because of that. But the good thing is Virgo is here backing it up. So instead, it kind of actually shines a light for you in terms of you maybe looking at the ways in which you can be too hard on yourself, where you need to soften your approach to what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and understanding the art of Cancerian energy, which is nurturing your way through something, sometimes manipulating your way through something, the power of coercion, right? Versus kind of the Capricornian way, which is to bulldoze through something, to make it very blunt and to put one foot in front of the other. This energy kind of comes in and it says to you that that is not going to work for you in the way that you're used to it working. There's something about you needing to nurture your relationships, being more nourishing in your dynamics, and that being able to bring you to the results that you're looking for. When we see this happening with the new moon in Virgo, this helps you because it's saying to you that you're now starting to see that. You're now starting to see how you can take a different approach in order to achieve the same goals. You're now seeing how a different approach can actually be more effective than the way that you normally are used to doing things, especially if your normal way of doing things is reflective of, it could be a trauma response or learned behavior due to things that you have dealt with in the past, especially when we're talking about your Pluto, the way you addressed Pluto in the past, right? So Pluto going retrograde into Capricorn all at the same time, right? So in this week, we have this energy going on with the Mars and the moon. And then we also still have Mercury in Leo and Pluto in Capricorn retrograde. So this brings back old things, right? Like we're entering into September in the old, whether it is literally, some of you can be direct in the sense of an old person, old situations showing up to find you, old contracts, old issues that you now have to address, but you have to address them in a different way. The only way to find this solution is to think differently and to take a much different, more nurtured approach than the way you would have in the past. And this happens to you right out the gate. We're in September, okay? And really, even if it's something that feels new, it's a repetition of the old. Whether they're new people, but it's a situation that, and this is good for love as well. I know this is a personal reading, but keep in mind with a personal reading, this is our internal dialogue and it can reflect itself on the outside. For example, when it comes to love, if you're having to address a person that is currently in your life, but the situation reminds you of something that you dealt with in your past, right? And you're having to take a different method or a different road in order to see through the results that you desire. So this is good. With Uranus going retrograde, we're looking at big surprises, okay? So things they're just not necessarily going to be predictable. So because they're not going to be predictable, you cannot take your predictable approach. The good thing about Cancerian energy is again, the ability to kind of go into the water and control things from a more emotional and as I said, more manipulative kind of space. And this helps you when you were talking about something like Uranus in retrograde, because you don't necessarily know what's going to happen, right? It's not necessarily as straightforward, right? So that energy is asking you to be more receptive, you know, not passive, but more receptive. And you'll see this being able to work for you and create a more flourishing result. Just because things are not predictable does not mean that they are bad. Okay, so that kind of energy can be the kind of surprises that work in your favor, or they cannot. At the end of the day, whatever it is that takes place is going to continue to expand you regardless, because we're sitting in Virgo. So when we look at week 2, we have Mercury going into Virgo, finally. We have the first quarter moon in Sag and the full moon great eclipse happening in Pisces. So this is really important because change is the name of the game for September, especially for you guys, okay? The entire paradigm, the entire collective, human collective, is going through this, but you guys in specific, it's on a deep internal self-transformational level. So you're going to feel this change in your skin, you know? When we see that Mercury enters Virgo in the second week, it brings a more lighter approach to these 8th house issues that we were dealing with in Leo. So the second week, it feels a little bit less scary. Again, you're finding more solutions. There's more movement. You can move things forward. You might have had good surprises take place the week prior, and something that you thought you weren't going to get, to your surprise, you got it, or something you thought wasn't going to move forward, to your surprise, moves forward, or it ends. But it, again, creates a new way of thinking and expanding, and you're able to look at the other possibilities. So there are things that are showing up in terms of you expanding your perspective and having more, I guess, far-reaching or unlimited, unrestrictive conversations. So instead of it feeling like issue after issue or problem after problem, bind after bind, locked door after locked door, it's more like all the doors are opening and it's saying, okay, here are all of the possibilities. Let's talk more about what can happen instead of what can't happen. Let's talk more about movement than shut doors, right? So this is good in terms of Mercury entering Virgo when we're looking at the second week. The first quarter in Sag, again, backs up the Virgo energy because the ninth house is Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius for you guys is your 12th house. So this has you, again, deeper in the subconscious when it comes to being able to heighten your dream state tied to what it is that you want for yourself and the kind of life paradigm you want to experience. September is change. So you're literally shifting your perspective by the daily in terms of where it is that you want to go, who it is that you want to be. And these things are bigger than you. And so even just on a small level, wanting to be more authentic in who it is that you are. So changing your wardrobe, changing the way you show up in the world, surrendering to more things than you used to in the past. These are the things that you're going to kind of see taking place. And it's a lot of internal change. When we look at the full moon eclipse in Pisces, again, more change on a big, big scale. The Pisces eclipse, this is in your third house. So we are in the Pisces Saturn retrograde as we speak. And this is, like I was mentioning before in the Pisces Saturn video, and I'll tie that here. This was all about your wounds turning into wisdom, the past. You guys are going to be experiencing either literally past people showing up, especially during this time, because it is Saturn retrograde. Now, Pluto is back in retrograde, so it's bringing up those things and situations that you dealt with during the Pluto Capricorn era. And then this is the eclipse. So all of this energy tied to this full moon is asking you to put a big end to the cycles tied around your Piscean energy, which is mostly tied around the Pisces and Saturn energy and what it is that you've been learning, going through, understanding when it comes to third house matters. Your neighborhood, your environment, language. Are you navigating a new country? Are you navigating a new social circle in some way, shape, or form? And these are these are big conversations in terms of asking you, what will you put an end to? Is it miscommunications? Is it the way you relate to your neighborhood, the way you relate to the things around you? Moving is a big conversation for you. So some of you can find yourselves moving this month. And then as we look at this Pisces full moon, and you're sitting in your new space, something, or moving towards your new area, you're feeling more complete in where it is that you are and less bounded by your neighborhood or close quarters. That's another thing. Or you can be looking at it differently than you had before, ending maybe a negative perspective or seeing a more broad viewpoint than you did before. So also, when it comes to language barriers, you guys can find yourselves being more serious about being able to communicate with the people around you. Also, when we're looking at this, you can see old people showing up in your life, like I mentioned before. But when it comes to this energy, it's kind of interesting because it can be old people that you maybe have dealt with during this Pisces transit, but also it can be literally people from your old neighborhoods. So it could mean that people from your childhood that were your next door neighbors, people you grew up with, these conversations, and when it comes to things like compassion, who wants to be around you, who sees you, different things like that, having these conversations and showing up again so that you can finalize them, so you can complete them, especially when it comes to feeling comfortable where it is that you are, comfortable in your day-to-day experiences around you in specific. And it's an eclipse, so it's a big energy tied to this. So like I said, you guys can be making a big move, or if it's not a big move, it's a big transformation emotionally and psychologically tied to where it is that you are. Next to that, when we're looking at the fourth week of September, we've got the Sun entering Libra, Venus entering Scorpio, last quarter in Cancer, the Saturn square happening. Saturn is squaring Pluto, which is the Pisces squaring the Capricorn Pluto, and Mercury enters Libra. So big again. By the time you're in the fourth week of September, you're going to be feeling kind of like a different, not even kind of like a different person, but mainly because of how you're looking at things. It's like your eyes are way more open now than they were previously. And so that's why September kind of leads you in a way where by the time the last week, it's like your entire perspective has changed, tied to who it is that you are and what it is that you're experiencing around you. This could have shown up in people showing their true colors, you just seeing things more realistically in both good ways and in bad. Far-reaching thinking, and like I said, some of you can just be in new relationships completely or moving again. But again, this is happening internally most importantly. So the shifts that are happening externally are because you're doing so much shifting internally. With the sun entering Libra, now that you know who you are and what the possibilities are and seeing things as clear as day, this now brings back your perspective tied to who it is that you want to be in the world. When the sun enters Libra, when we are at the end of September, you're saying, I know who I want to be, and I want the world to see me this way. All of the change and transformation that's taking place in September, this constant kind of shift, right? When you're looking at the last week, you're saying, okay, I want to show this off. I want to really, and this is big for social media, give the world what I've got in that sense. I want to feel more stable and confident in the way that I show up in the world. When we're looking at Venus entering Scorpio, I think the love reading is going to be interesting. But when we're looking at Venus entering Scorpio, this deepens your perspective tied to who it is that you want to be around. Again, the way you transform the perspective of what you see around you, when Venus enters into Scorpio, you start to want to deepen the way in which you relate to people around you. You want to expand your social circles, network in a way that feels like whoever it is that's around you, you really want to feel like they are a part of your soul tribe, or that they can get you places. You really like who it is that you are. You're more secure in who it is that you are, and you're aware of who likes you, your impact on the world around you, and you want to deepen those relationships. The last quarter in Cancer, along with the Saturn square, this is interesting because when we're looking at the last quarter tied to, again, your relationships, when we're seeing the 7th house. So these two things, with Venus being in Scorpio, wanting you to go deeper when it comes to the way in which you relate to other people, and trining with you, kind of wanting to kind of create a look for yourself, especially if you're talking about beauty that is more socially acceptable. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to change yourself, because like I said, by the end of September, you guys are really knowing yourselves and feeling more confident in yourselves because of that, despite whatever it is that you go through when it comes to these changes. But it's more like in a sense of, through this newfound awareness, you want to really find power in it, right? Find power in the way you navigate society. And if you know that you're beautiful, you want to be more beautiful, right? And you want everyone to see it, especially on social media when we're looking at the 11th house and then 10th house activation with Venus being in Libra, with the sun being in Libra. A lot of you guys are going to be big on your social identity and feeling very, very bold in your social identities as well. Almost like a gift to yourself because of all the things that you've gone through in a way. But when we're looking at the Saturns, and when we're seeing the last quarter in Cancer, this is finalizing your perspectives tied to things that were kind of conversations during Cancer season, which was in June and July, tied to the 7th house matters, your relationships, who it is that you're tied to, who it is that you're frankly dating or wanting to have those kind of bonds with. Also family matters as well. You're ending that conversation. So some of you, like I said, their love reading is going to be interesting. So I'll just focus on the internal and say that anything that does not serve you, want it to go. Anyone really who makes you feel like you are not going to kind of just reach your own greatness in a way, like you, and for you at this point, greatness is more about internal satisfaction more than it is external satisfaction. Your internal satisfaction is going to lead to external satisfaction. And by the end of September, you are aware of that you've achieved internal to then get to a place of external, which is good. But again, you're saying this relationship does not serve me, and I no longer want to tolerate it or deal with it. When we see the Saturn square happening with Pluto, this is interesting because both of these planets are in retrograde. So as we see this, these two do a dance in the sky in that sense. This is a big deal when it comes to how your close quarters, like we mentioned before during the moon, is relating to your identity. And this square doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's all about you. The oppositions are going to be very much highlighted to you. So it can be very small in a sense of just, this is how I'm doing my social identity wrong. Or this is how I have been showing up incorrectly in my neighborhood or who it is that I'm around, my day-to-day reality. This is how I have either mistreated people or misconstrued the situation. And these are the ways in which I need to change. It highlights the way in which you need to change tied to third house matters to pretty much better your experience. And then we look at Mercury entering Libra. This changes the conversation now from how you can expand more. Throughout all of September, you're thinking about expansive thoughts, deeper conversations, philosophical conversations, and also solution-based conversations. Finding more idealism in serious matters that you thought you could not find solutions to. September brings about a lot of moments of being able to see that there are solutions for things that you thought there were no outs to. And this deeper, bigger way of seeing yourself and the world around you being able to work in your favor all throughout the month, which is saying, okay, I want this, and this is who I need to talk to. And this person offers all of these solutions for whatever issues that I thought had no solutions, right? The beauty of the idealism of the ninth house. So when we go into Mercury and Libra now, it's more serious because it's your 10th house. It's the Capricorn house. And now it's, okay, I did all of these things. How do I create new contracts? How do I create new systems? Again, serious conversations tied around long-term relationships. How are you focused on stabilizing your identity? And this is where we shift when this energy changes as we look at the end of September and lead into October. And this is the aftermath of all this change and growth and transformation that you're going to be experiencing September. You're more empowered at the end of it, and you've kind of got your helmet on, and you're saying, okay, these are the steps that need to be taken in order for us to finalize these things, in order for me to be more stationary in my identity and how I'm showing up in the world. So that's what I've got for you when it comes to the personal astrology. We're going to get into the reading now. Capricorn, here we've got your personal reading for the month of September. And the first thing we see here in terms of what's going on with the subject, to no surprises to me, we see the King of Cups here, along with the Four of Pentacles. So there's a lot that's going on in terms of you kind of, how do we say, dealing with a bit of repression, a bit of suppression. You're holding a lot of things in, holding a lot of things back, keeping things close to your chest. But this doesn't necessarily have to, no, it feels like a bit of a yin and yang. It feels like something that has equal parts good and equal parts bad to it. It's a proper self-preservation, probably because you feel like you have to. You have to practice a lot of emotional control and governance and keep a lot of your things to yourself. And obviously this is your personal reading, right? So there's a certain level of energy that you're maintaining close to your own, body, right? The thing about the Four of Pentacles is it is your card. So because it is your card, we see you sitting here, and usually sometimes this can, indicate you not releasing yourself from repression. But in this case, it feels like this is the energy you're in because you have to be in it. And actually, this is a space of a bit of empowerment. almost like a high priestess energy of keeping things close. Not everyone needs to know all your cards. And you know that you have to practice governance here. And you cannot let your emotions get the best of you. And you also have to be very, very strategic and calculating about where you give your energy and where you give your essence to. We've got the Two of Cowrie here in your shadow space. And this is along with the Justice. So clearly you're dealing with a lot of stress. And this kind of has you in a headspace that makes sense why what you're doing or what's going on is this repression, this pull in, this. It doesn't necessarily feel like, because repression and suppression are two different things, right? But in this case, I just can't help but say that word because it's the word that keeps showing itself, right? Is repression. But it's not the kind of repression that is just negative. Like I said, it's like something that you're purposely doing for your benefit and also to your detriment. Because of what we have going on in the shadow is you're clearly afraid. You're afraid of things happening against your will. Justice. Some of you, this is your personal reading. So this is what's going on with you internally. So if it's showing up on the external as legal matters, as red tape, rules, regulations, or a love situation, you're afraid of, some of you could literally be afraid of the justice system. Others of you, it could be fear tied to where your karma lands. If you've made the right decisions up until this point that are going to actually lead in things working in your favor, or are you going to be binded and end up in a bad situation because of the steps that you've taken or the things that you've done that have led you up to this point? Obviously, there's a lot of stress here. You're doing a lot of juggling, a lot of self-management, even micromanagement, trying to ensure that things work out in your favor. And you're afraid of these two cowries in your hands, creating so much of an imbalance that they end up falling out of your hands, and then you're in a very difficult situation. This is all about stress and fear tied to things being out of your hands. With the clarity of what's going on with the subject, we obviously have coffin, right? So endings bring new beginnings, and there's a liberation here, but you're insecure. Which brings me back to this energy again, where it's like this repression or this pull-in is not just something that is negative. This is something that you're actively doing that, again, works in your favor and also works against it. And it's mainly because you don't believe that you have what it takes to get to what it is that you want this month. You're dealing with a lot of insecurity, but at the same time, things are moving forward. So we have a lot of movements forward. We have a lot of things going. There is liberation taking place and transitions taking place, but then there's also a lot of insecurities because things feel like they're out of your hands. And one move, I'm sorry, I didn't realize one move and things can go awry. You don't want to lose your sense of resources, and this can show up financially. This can show up in terms of you giving to the wrong love situation. Whatever it is, it's like you don't want to feel like you're drained again. What it is that you have, it's not necessarily like it's scarce, but you don't necessarily have a lot to go around in terms of this energy that you're trying to self-preserve, this sense of abundance that you have. And you're trying to ensure that you don't end up in the worst case scenario. And then you also don't want to overspell your emotions as well. So your water does not want to fall out, and your pentacles do not want to fall out either. And it's like, do I have what it takes to get to where it is that I need to go? All these changes are happening. All these new beginnings are taking place. But what about this? So when we look at the spiritual advice here, we have heaven sent with visions of life beyond death. This is beautiful because we see these two here with each other. Double confirmation on what is dying or what is ending is bringing forth a new beginning. This rebirth energy. Endings bringing new beginnings, and there is some kind of liberation here. So when we look at visions of life beyond death being your spiritual advice, this is obviously something that you're going to be finding yourself doing and being aware of, because you are aware that where it is that you are navigating yourself is something that's ending an old paradigm for you, ending old things, ending, again, this is your personal, so internally, that's what you're doing. You're ending things that are restricting you. You're putting an end to old stories, old narratives, right? You're trying to bring forth new realities, new beginnings. And again, this feels like a lot of things changing and shifting. When things die and new things are born, it's not always the easiest feeling. And it's a lot of karma playing out, and karma can feel very scary. And obviously, this is reflecting itself on the outside in multiple ways. Endings of relationships, ending of contracts, ending of, like I said in August, like the ties that bind, right? Because that was the big subject during that time. And then we see heaven sent. So again, we're looking at more governance in terms of the divine. And these are your advice points. So things are bigger than you. These changes, these ends, these liberations, this growth, this transformation, it's bigger than you. And it makes sense why it's bringing about a sense of self-sabotage and frustration and lack of confidence and fear. It's just like, do you deserve the new beginnings? Can you actually get to them? Can you actually do this? And for those of you who are in the driver's seat of this, it's this fear that what ends will end, and it will not lead to something good because you're juggling so much. You don't want to lose. When we look at your healing points, this is interesting because we go back to the sense of confirmation. And also, in terms of your subject, these are minor arcanas where the major arcana is found in your shadow, which leads me to believe, when we look at not enough, the anxiety is rooted in this sense of karma, this sense of justice. Something feeling like it's out of your hands, things feeling bigger than you, like we said, and how you're then responding to it, which is just trying to maintain yourself and navigate from what it is that you've learned up until this point in terms of self-preservation or self-clarity. Navigation. But then it's like the fear of karma. When we look at heaven sent, it's like divine order. So out of your hands and bigger than you, but it doesn't have to mean something negative. Change, growth, and liberation is here. Transition is here. And there are things after the end. So when we look at Yashi, you shall overcome all obstacles. Success is imminent. Very straightforward. So stay connected to your path no matter what, and continue to apply yourself. Allow your spiritual path to support you on areas of your life. Live by your spiritual beliefs. Seek out the support of your spiritual brothers and sisters for help when needed. But also trust that you are intimately and directly connected to the powerful divine light within. Double confirmation on heaven sent. And I didn't even notice. Yashi 333 aligns here with heaven sent at 33. These are both numbers. When we're looking at the numerology number 3, it's all about creation, the creative process. Threes tend to be the number of eccentricity, sometimes unpredictability, because it's always in the mode of creation. So there is this, it's almost like at the bottom of the tarot deck, we had the Wheel of Fortune. And that's what it is that I've been wanting to say. It's almost like the Wheel of Fortune is happening here. And obviously, when we look at the bottom of my deck, it's always the overarching energy. And this entire reading feels like a Wheel of Fortune. It feels like things that are moving, things that are transitioning, change, growth, liberation. When the wheel begins to turn, it's not always predictable. It's not comfortable. We like to believe that it is. We want what it is that we want, or we want liberation, we want growth, we want change, we want transformation. We want it to also seem seamless. But in this case, when it comes to this energy, it's not something that is going to be so natural. Let's say that, you're doing a very good job at maintaining your center, But it's because it feels bigger than you. And a lot of the time when we look at this wheel spinning, it is bigger than you. It's turning whether you are handling it or not. Now, some of you can put forth certain things, right? Put out what it is that you want. Take one step forward, and then you take one step forward towards something, and the wheel just begins to turn. And then, it's kind of like that feeling where, okay, this is in motion, and the only thing I can do is to try to stay steady and try to pay attention. So when we look back at Yashi, but also trust that you're intimately and directly connected to the powerful divine light within, there can be a dramatic healing breakthrough when you rely upon your spiritual connection, right? So when we go back into that space again, relying upon your spiritual connection aligned with heaven sent here, understanding that endings bring new beginnings and there's change and liberation, visions of life beyond death. Success is imminent, but it's a matter of understanding that it doesn't necessarily mean that you have complete control. And not having control sometimes can be hard for you guys. And it makes sense as well, because it's like with all the things that have been testing you and with all the transformation you've had to go through, even over just the past years of Pluto moving through your sign and Saturn and Capricorn is one of the darkest spaces that you can be. And it also rains diamonds on Saturn, right? Born through pressure. The thing about this energy is it can feel scary because there are things that don't necessarily work in your favor, or that maybe you are not the best in. But it's a matter of trusting in that perspective, that success is ultimately inevitable. It's like allowance. It's the Wheel of Fortune. It's that same energy. Let's look at Lesya. So Lesya sits right behind Yashi, which is interesting. A lot of threes on this board. And this is an air energy. So we have a earth energy on top of an air energy. So grounding, in order to ground yourself, finding clarity of thought, there's a gentler way to proceed and obtain the same or even greater effect. Exactly. It's like I don't know how to say it the right way, so maybe I'll just keep reading, but that's exactly how it feels to me. That it's like, okay, things are moving. They're just moving. And that's it. You don't necessarily have all this control. You don't necessarily have all this governance, but it's just moving. It's transforming. It's transitioning. It's like a rush of water. It's like when the dam gets removed from the river. And your fears make sense. Because some of this can feel so intense that it's like almost like at the end of September, you can feel like, whew, like, okay, here, but again, this doesn't feel negative, because even when we're looking at the clarity cards, not enough is about your confidence issues. It's about your lack of self-esteem. It's you with your own ego and fears and all of the above. It's not something that feels bigger than you. Because your fear, right, this energy is feeding into this energy of like, do I deserve this karma to be good? Or is it going to smack me in the face? Is something that is out of my hands going to come and eat me like a monster from underneath my bed? So let's go back to this. So not only do we know that success is imminent, right? When you trust in the divine, when we look here at 33, more 3-3s, right? When you allow this creative energy to push you forward in terms of divine guidance, it's a matter of understanding that things are just in those hands. There's a gentler way to proceed and obtain the same or even greater effect. Tame the wild, frenzied workings of the mind by grounding yourself with beauty, pleasure, and grace. Violence and its negative effects shall be overcome and healed through feminine gentleness and inner spiritual strength. This oracle brings a great sign brings, this oracle is a great sign of future happiness. The fact that when we look at this card, it mentions violence, I think is saying a lot here, because you're scared. And like I said, this is your personal, so this manifests itself for all of you guys in different ways. Some of you literally can, at the bare bones of you, be dealing with red tape, those restrictive legal matters, or it can be like divorces or something along those lines, or it could be the kind of themes that were restricting you during your Capricorn Pluto. And also for those of you who are older, keep in mind, we talk so much about the Capricorn Pluto, but the Pluto just emphasized the themes that were playing out in your life before you even got into that Pluto transit. Okay, and that's for all Capricorn placements. It intensified your karma, your own life experiences, to completely transform and transition you. So when we're looking at the themes that have been playing out throughout this year, and a part of the reason why this year has been, you can look at your life and see that you're being liberated from old patterns if you pay very close attention. But at the same time, it still could have felt very difficult and like it was full of obstacle. But again, it's tied to that idea of transforming, the restoration process. It's not easy. Change is not easy. To be liberated, something has to die. But you also can let go of the fear that you have, because there's a gentle way. And we're looking at violence here. It's like you have to go through a great surrender. Because this is not asking you to put yourself in like a major driver's seat, you know? It's just a matter of understanding, like, surrender. Soften your approach. You're not seeing that there are other methods to get to where it is that you need to go because of this. And it's because you're scared of this, but it's also causing you to be in this. Because you don't want to let go here. But all of these cards are saying the same thing. It's like liberate, allow, release, understand, know. It's interesting. There's a lot of breathing here. And we look at the bottom of the clarity decks. What I saw was heartbroken with healthier choices. So again, breakup, separation, loss. We're bringing forth a new beginning. We're looking at this yin and yang again when it comes to September. It's like heartbroken, healthier choices. Coffin, insecure. The bottom of the healing point, we've got the Queen of Nagas. So this is my Queen of Pentacles. And this is all about understanding that unexpected allies rally to support you. And so in a very direct and blunt way, there are people and there are resources that are on your side. If you do not understand what's in front of you, if you cannot make sense of it, step out of that desire to go into a full control mode and kind of pull back and take a deep breath and say to yourself, like, okay, well, I am actually, and this is powerful because it's you guys really understanding the power that you have inside and your own manifestation abilities, which is a part of what you've been understanding all year. Stepping out of the space where your insecurities forced you to be very hardworking, very externally focused, very like, carve the stone focused, and more into your SeaGoat energy, which is going inside and increasing your personal power, your internal power, in order to see the results on the outside. And so in a lot of ways, when we're looking at this energy here in September, you are someone that deserves the outcomes that you're looking for. And so if whatever you're dealing with on the outside, people can see that, they can understand that. And that's a part of what works in your favor. If that's the bare bones of what works in your favor here. And why there is a gentler way to proceed, even if you can't see it. You soften when you understand that there is respect given to you because of just who you are. Stepping out of a space of insecurity and into a space of confidence. When we look at the bottom of the advice deck, we've got trust yourself. And then before that fell receiving. And what I love about this trust yourself versus the inner trust card is this trust yourself has all of these things going on in this. It's like the manifestation, the creation process versus the other card in this deck that says inner trust. It's like an eerie kind of energy that's more, I trust myself despite gaslighting. I trust myself despite lying. I trust myself despite all of the things that are taking place around me, right? This trust yourself is more, again, 3-3, more of a creative energy. You have to really step into your imagination, step into your manifestation, transcend the energy from within, take a gentler, more feminine, and even for the masculines, take a gentler, more feminine approach. Charm the situation. Go into the space of water, allow it to yield to you. And at the bottom of the shadow deck, we have Anisha Kane. So again, the theme tied to fire. Maybe a fight being afoot, things having to be more difficult than you want them to be. You guys know what we say, like a line unenlightened, right? Transcend. You're going to get what you want. It's just not necessarily the way that you think. There's a softer way to go about it. And you're being liberated. Even if it doesn't make sense to you. So let's get some clarity. Things are falling out. Ten of Pentacles. The World. All right, so we've got do here. Okay. Feel. And know. Sorry if this composition is kind of a little. All right, so when we're looking at this, we see what is it that you need to know, feel, and do. Know, knowledge. And this is tied with the Eight of Cups. So in a very direct way, whatever it is that you're walking away from, because obviously we see endings bring new beginnings. There's a lot of things that are dying here. And I mentioned this in terms of the Capricorn Pluto. It's rebirth, right? But it doesn't mean it's comfortable. Transformation, transition, doesn't mean it's comfortable. Getting to the light, we have this idea that to get to the other side, or to get to where it is that we want, it should be seamless because we're searching for the light. But everything comes with opposition. Whatever it is that you're walking away from, know what you're walking away from and know how to walk away from it. Whomever it is, however this is manifesting on the outside, know how to walk away. Be aware of what you're putting behind you and how to put it behind you properly. As this is what it is that you need to know. You are leaving things behind. You are putting things behind you. And this is going to be leading you to your wish fulfillment, obviously, because this is the Eight of Cups. Next to the Eight of Cups is the Nine of Cups. And when I ask directly what it is that you need to know, and knowledge being the answer, you need to put yourself in a space of understanding directly that you are leaving things behind in order to find your wish fulfillment, in order to lead to that energy. So it's a great understanding in terms of knowing that. But it's just understanding how that is happening. And how aware you are going to be of it. When we look at feel, we've got direction. Do not deviate from your path. Attract a mentor if necessary. Plan where you want to be. And this is with the King of Pentacles. So this is interesting in terms of understanding that you're on the right path. And that you need to be in a space of your own strength. So we're asking you, the Capricorn placements. Oh, geez. Oh, hold on. We're asking you, the Capricorn placements, to put yourself in a space of the King of Pentacles. You need to feel your own sense of abundance, but from the space of the King. So in control, abundance, stepping out of the space of insecurity. Know where it is that you want to go from a space of masculine abundance. Right? It doesn't mean that this leaves us when it says take the feminine approach. On an emotional level, release your anxieties in terms of feeling like things are not going to work out in your favor, because you are standing in the space of the King of Pentacles. Soften the anxieties to align with a stronger sense of confidence in self. You are creating a path and a plan. You know what it is that you're doing. What it is that you want for yourself is right and righteous. And know that you are going to be able to walk away from whatever it is that's binding you, whatever it is that has gotten you stuck. You're leaving it behind. And you're knowing how to leave it behind. We look at gamble with the Six of Cups. Very direct, very straightforward. Do not allow your insecurities to make it so that you make silly mistakes because you're trying too hard to control things. Because this is a part of the thing that you used to do in the past. The past is repeating itself. Karmic cycles are coming to an end, right? Obviously, you're walking away from things. But if you take this approach, it can blow up in your face. It's better to be a little bit more straightforward in honoring the truth. Being softer because you know that you're in control. All of this kind of like, maybe I have to go this way. Maybe I have to do things this route because don't take on too much and don't try to overly strategize your way out of something like the way you used to do in the past, because that's a part of the karma that you built up that put you in difficult spaces. And that's also a part of where it is that you are right now in terms of the things that might be feeling like they are restricting you. Don't repeat this. And what's beautiful about the Six of Cups, again, is because it reminds me of this energy in terms of taking a gentler approach. So don't repeat the past, but then also take a more lighthearted, I don't want to say childlike, but sweeter kind of approach to getting the things that you want done. Lighten your energy because you are confident in your path and what it is that you're doing. Because you are abundant. And we saw the Queen of Pentacles, the Queen of Nagas, because it's a matter of understanding that your worth is recognized. Don't come from the space of like, bluntly, like the little rat that feels like, oh, I'm not seen or I'm not understood, or like I have to strategize in all these ways to get what it is that I want because I'm not in the space of power, right? Feeling a lack of confidence. You don't need to do that. You are walking away. You're putting things behind you to lead to your wish fulfillment. And at the bottom of this deck, we had the World. You can't get any more powerful than knowing that cycles are over. And at the bottom of the Career deck, we have Loyalty. And this is interesting because it aligns again with Queen of Nagas. It's a matter of understanding that there are people that can make this process easier for you. And it's going within yourself, because this is your personal reading, right? So it's going within your own self and saying, okay, how can I soften my approach from a space of self-confidence and allow other people to help you? To nourish your situations so that they work in your favor. Because things are ending. You will be successful. The divine is in charge this time around. Things are ending that are bigger than you. Change is taking place regardless. And what you fear is valid. So take a different approach where you allow yourself to be softer, more receptive, more open, more vulnerable in a way. Because you're confident and strong enough to know that you're on the right path to get what it is that you want. Okay. So that's what I have for you. I love you. Ciao.